All right, and welcome back, everyone, to another great episode of Laptops on the Field. My name is Alex, and I will be your host today. With me today, our good friend Jeremy is out today because he's not feeling well and he's got a ton of homework to do. So hope he gets better soon, and he gets all that homework done. With me today are my good friends Hendrix,
Hey.
my good friend Harrison,
What's up?
and my good friend Bunny. Okay. And introducing our good friend, you can find him on Twitch, on twitch.tv, and on Twitter. Please welcome a good friend of mine who's recording us as well. Please welcome Zoom.
Hey guys.
Yep, thank you so very much for recording us. And I'd like to first apologize to all our viewers for being out for a month. We've had some technical difficulties, since why episode 2 is coming so late. But better not to waste any more time, and let's discuss the newest GM hires. Let's see.
I know the Orioles brought in a new staff with a lot of Astros alums.
Yep. Which as an Orioles fan, I'm very happy about. I'm very Mike Elias. I'm very excited about to see what kind of change he'll bring to the organization. And they also got Sig Mejdal, who basically created the analytics department in Houston. So I'm very excited for that.
Yeah, if I were an Orioles fan, I'd be probably fucking ecstatic, and I completely understand your feelings on this.
Yeah, getting Elias, who's gone not only really good top round picks, but Tyler White, for instance, was a 33rd rounder who was a part of the playoff push last year. So he's really excellent at senior sides as well.
My big thing is I want to see how well he can handle the little bit of the salary situation the Orioles are in now. They're not in the worst shape in the world, but they have a salary that matches many of their playoff push years. If you look at it, they have around 95 million in commitments and in 60 million in guarantees between 4 players, including Chris Davis and Mark Trumbo. And those aren't players that you really see as future players for the organization, but they're locked into them. The only one of those 4 that I think they can really trade is Alex Cobb, if he can continue how he started pitching in the later half of the season. So they're going to have to do some magic work to get that payroll shaved down and save some money to spend it on more competitive years.
I will say, though, Trumbo is a rental, essentially. He only has 1 more year left on his deal.
Thank God. Yeah. And the thing is with Davis is that he's like the only one who's going for more than he's the one who you really can't move. I think we can move Cobb even if we have to eat money, and Andrew Cashner is only going to be here for 1 more year. And Trumbo's going after this year. He might be going at the deadline, depending on what happens this year with him. But so far, so far though, the only one you can't really move is Chris Davis, which is totally understandable.
What a bad contract.
I still remember I wanted Yoenis Cespedes that offseason. I didn't want Chris Davis, and when I saw that we signed Chris Davis, I'm like, well, this is kind of disappointing. All right. So
the Mets aren't too happy with this either.
Yeah, Brody Van
reasons, but
yeah, we'll get into Brody in a couple minutes. But speaking of GMs, we're gonna move on to the Seattle Mariners and an established GM, and Jerry Dipoto. Now, Mr. Dipoto
from a hospital bed.
Yep, you gotta admire that kind of dedication.
Yeah, with blood clots in his lungs, Jesus.
And he's still wheeling and dealing like he's at a craps table in Vegas. You gotta admit, that's pretty impressive.
Such a badass.
He's gonna have a.
Sorry, go ahead.
He's gonna have a trade done when he's dead.
Yeah.
From the grave.
Does anyone else think that Jerry got sick because he didn't trade anyone for so long? I think that's the real.
Yeah, I think so as well.
I don't know. Bloodcots is a little fucking extreme just because I didn't trade anyone for 2 weeks. Yeah. But anyway, speaking of our good old friend Jerry DePoto, he's been very, very busy this offseason so far. With a ton of trades, shedding a ton of salary and bringing back a lot of talent for the Mariners. The first one being that they traded Michael Plasmeyer, who Hendo originally talked about as his prospect.
And it was a jinx.
Let's see. Yeah. Oh yeah, it was an insane jinx. Guillermo Heredia and Mike Zunino for Jake Fraley and Malik Smith. They traded and let's start with that trade first. So Hendricks, you're the resident Mariners fan. How do you feel about this trade?
I like the trade mostly because we actually got a legit center fielder for the first time since 2009. No matter how lacking of power Malik Smith is, he's fast, he can hit, and he's more valuable than any other center fielder since Franklin Gutierrez that time, which I like.
That's pretty good. Do you like I'm sorry about the prospect you traded away.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah. I think overall this is kind of one of those like milding trades where you gave up a little bit much, but the much wasn't a whole lot. I was kind of shocked seeing Mike Zunino go to Tampa Bay. But then again, that's probably how you got Malik Smith back, which I'm totally okay with. That basically fixed your outfield. And you're right. He is very fast. He's a plus defender in the field, in left and in center. So, yeah, I think overall, good trade for both teams.
Malik Smith, there's been some talk about how the splits are on turf versus on grass. That might be a little concerning. I'm not going to bite into it too much, but he is a kind of guy that does stretch out those singles into doubles. It's great to bring in a catcher who basically is our replacement for CJ Crone, guy who can hit a lot of jacks from the catching position. We've never really had that. Not even our last catcher, Ramos, was a super powerful catcher. He'd get jacks, but he wasn't here really long enough to get one of those huge home run seasons. Great to bring in a guy with a lot of defensive value. It's confusing that we're still going after, and we'll talk about this at some other point, but we're still going after JT Realmuto. It doesn't make sense. Now we got Mike Zunino, unless we want just JT Realmuto's bat, but we could spend a lot less and get a slightly better bat for a DH spot or a first base spot.
Nelson Cruz.
Yeah, that's a possible one. It's good to bring in a guy because we get a lot of young pitchers. He's going to be comfortable with these. He's going to help him get comfortable. He's going to be another coach on the field. That's always been one of the positives about Mike Zunino. Who knows? Maybe we'll make another trade with the Mariners this offseason. In fact, we already did. But I'd also like to talk about how I pretty much predicted we'd trade Malik Smith. And Heredia is probably just going to be cut in spring training.
I will say from a prospect standpoint, I do think Fraley has much more upside than Plasmeyer, but at this point, it's basically Magic Beans for other Magic Beans.
Basically.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's see. The next one is one that made our resident Yankee fan Jeremy very, very happy, but also somewhat conflicted at the same time because the Mariners traded James Paxton, basically their left-handed ace, for Eric Swanson, Don Thompson Williams, and top Yankees prospect Justice Sheffield. Now, I've liked this trade from both standpoints because the Yankees get that number 2 big left-handed starter that they've been looking for since CC Sabathia started his decline. And I like Swanson and Thompson Williams both in the Mariners system because they provide a little organizational depth pitching wise and and when it comes to an outfield prospect, because Thompson Williams grades really well in the corner outfield spots, and the bat looks really well in high single A. And Swanson is probably going to be on the cusp of the major leagues in AAA this year. And just as Sheffield, if you follow baseball, you already know how big of a prospect this guy is, and he really does help the Mariners in the long run. So yeah, what are your guys' thoughts on that?
I'm gonna coin this the Eric Swanson trade purely because I think he has much more talent than he's been scouted to have. If he's projected to be either a long reliever that relies primarily on his fastball or a 5-inning guy with 2 pitches, then I don't see why in like a bunch of starts in AAA he's had very good results. Then, and if that's the like the line between the minor leagues and the major leagues, then it's kind of hard to see why he's not getting more, not projected to be anything more when in AAA he's shown very good results.
Even in AA, he's looked really good.
Yeah, exactly.
He's going to be 25 here.
Yeah.
I will say Swanson's stock did grow quite a bit after this past year. And J.J. Cooper said he was going to be placed 11th on the Yankees' top prospects list this year.
Nice.
I'd like to say that this trade, might not be like a tanking trade because they're getting a guy who's going to be on the major league roster, who's going to give them many more years of control. It's better in the long run, but I don't think it sets them back dramatically. Some other trades might have. But, it's good to bring in this kind of talent for just one player who's going to be out very
soon.
Mm-hmm. They did get 2 big league arms in this deal, for sure.
Yep. Let's see. The next one was Alex Colon to the Chicago White Sox for Omar Narvaez. So I think that's kind of meh because Colon he was a great bullpen asset, but overall could be kind of shaky at some points. So I think this trade's pretty fair, honestly.
Yeah, they got 5 years of a good on-base catcher. Like, he's a good guy. I mean, his on-base percentage, I think, in his career is like .350. Defense is a little shaky, but they have 5 years of him versus 2 years of Colomé.
Yeah. There's a joke about Alex Colomé in the Rays organization. Whenever he was on, he was Colomé. Whenever he was off, he was Column B. He was on more often than he was off. He's a good 8th inning kind of guy. That's where he seems to profile best. But they get back their replacement for Zunino, even if it is just a short term.
Yeah, I have something to say about Omar Narvaez. Like, due to like on base percentage and lack of power, and just like overall, bad defense. I'm dubbing him the anti-Zunino because that's basically what Zunino isn't. Because Zunino hits jacks, has good defense, but can't get on base to save his life.
Let's see. The next trade was the big one, the one that was rumored forever and then actually happened. Let's see. The Mariners traded Robinson Cano and Edwin Diaz in cash to the New York Mets. Received Justin Dunn, Jared Klenick, Garrison Batista, Jay Bruce, and Anthony Swarzak from the New York Mets. Now, this trade caused a lot of controversy in the Mets community, and it created a lot of happiness in the Mariners community. And I can see why. The Mariners got rid of Cano's giant contract, but had to give up Edwin Diaz as a result. But you also got Jared Klenick, who might just be one of the best hitters in the minor leagues, even though he was just drafted this year. There's a ton of potential in that bat. Let's see. And Justin Dunn this year looked really good in High A, Port St. Lucie. And not as good in Double-A Birmingham, but he only played 15 games there. So there's potential there, I think, for Justin Dunn. But overall, the main prize was Jared Klenick. So I think this is a really good trade, great trade for the Mariners. What do you guys think?
I'll step up and say that just to allude to some comments about Van Brody, I don't know what direction the Mets are going. It seems like they're going all in, but then they make some trades that suggest maybe they're selling. Like, what are they doing? What is their modus operandi? What is their direction? And they seem aimless. They seem like they're wandering in the wilderness.
I think with their signing of Familia, they're going for it, and I don't know if that's the smartest decision. Though I do think that there's a good amount of talent still on that roster.
They're going to trade Realmuto still. They're still in talks about that.
Well, they're trading for Realmuto. I don't think they're going to.
Oh, I'm a fucking idiot. Realmuto is on the Marlins. I mean, a fucking idiot. You got to cut that out.
Nailed it.
Yeah, like I don't
Absolutely nailed it.
But aren't they also looking to trade Leonard?
They're rumored to try to get Realmuto. I don't know what to believe at this point.
I'll believe it when I see it.
I don't think they're going to deal Thor. I don't at all. But
that was the one that was making me scratch my head because they're trying to deal Thor, and they're still rumored to do that. But I believe now that there's certainly an undercurrent to saying that they don't want to trade Thor. They talked about Cespedes as a deadline piece. Like who talks about deadline pieces in December?
Well, I think that was referring to him coming back from heel surgery, maybe.
Yeah, but they're already saying he's the ultimate deadline trading piece, and why would you use that kind of language to describe a guy who's going to pretty much be your starting center fielder? And if you're going to buy in, why are you talking about selling at the deadline?
Because everyone's predicting the Mets to fail like they normally do. That's why.
Yeah, but why would you accept that as an organization? Isn't that kind of a terrible mindset to have? Like you want to say, screw everyone else. We're going to compete. We're going to have a shot to win this division. You don't want to be someone to say, yeah, well, we got some assets we can trade at the deadline if things don't work out. You of course, you think about that, but you don't publicly say it.
Yeah, it just feels like they're trying to compete. They're trying to compete half-assed.
Yeah, but that's my point. It's like wandering in the wilderness. You can't do that. You got to be. There's hedging your bets, and then there's doing what they're.
I know, Hendricks, you're excited because of all the prospects you got back, and the fact that you got Clinic, who looks fantastic as a prospect.
Yeah, the big piece was Clinic to begin with. Once he was mentioned by I think it was Rosenthal in a tweet, I was like, yeah, I want this guy. He was the 6th overall pick in the draft, I think, and it was like if we're getting that bag and he's projected to be that, well, goddamn, I want that player,
I think the trade came out fairly even for both sides because they do get multiple years of Diaz, and if they decide to blow it up, they're going to get more for Diaz than the Mariners did, in my opinion.
Yeah, because they're not going to be if they don't trade away a huge contract with Diaz, they'll definitely get more.
Mm-hmm. But now Robinson Cano becomes an anchor to the Mets instead of an anchor to the Mariners.
Yeah, and I think he's still got plenty to contribute.
And I mean, it's more like they're eating the Swarzak and Bruce money and paying about half of Cano's salary. It's more or less what they're actually doing.
On the same day, let's see, they traded Juan Niasco, James Pezos, and Juan Segura to Philadelphia for J.P. Crawford and Carlos Santana.
Carlos Santana, one of the all-time Mariners, as we'll see.
Yeah, all-time Mariner great, Carlos Santana. But for this trade, it's weird because Dipoto had one of his greatest trades, in my opinion, with the Cano trade. However, with the Niasco and Segura trade to Philadelphia, he kind of put his foot in his mouth because I think he overpaid a little bit for J.P. Crawford and Carlos Santana.
If I recall correctly, there wasn't that much of a market for Segura. The Phillies deal was the best deal they got for him.
Yeah, and even then, it wasn't really all that good.
And when it first leaked, I thought, JP for Segura was a good trade because it was making the Phillies more competitive with a slightly better option at shortstop. It was giving the Mariners a guy who they can give more time now that they're kind of slow walking their organization and saying we're going to step back a little bit. try and shed salary, still bring in young guys, but there's a youth movement, obviously. So J.P. Crawford contributes to that youth movement, but then you add in all these other names, and it's like, yeah, why? That could have been a solid trade that for both teams if it was just the two of them. Bring in Santana, who's not going to have a whole lot of value for them, and we'll see what happens to him here next.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, it wasn't that long ago where Crawford was a top 30 prospect in baseball, but adding in Pazos was really the thing that I'm like, he didn't need to be in this deal. They could have kept him and held on to him, but yeah, who knows?
Yeah, rumors were they wanted to add some arms, but they ended up not doing it.
I mean, overall, I think it's okay that they shipped Juan Segura to Philadelphia, but I think they overpaid a little too much to get him out. And then the last trade that we're going to talk about concerning the Mariners so far was the three-team trade where they traded Mariners legend Carlos Santana in cash to the Indians and Edward Encarnacion and a 2019 competitive balance pick from Cleveland. In addition, the Tampa Bay sent Jake Bauers to Cleveland, and Cleveland sent Cole Sulser and Yandy Diaz to the Tampa Bay Rays. Now, this deal is a lot to unpack, but from a Mariners standpoint, I'm actually pretty happy about it, mainly because they got rid of the Santana cash and received a one-year rental in Edwin Encarnacion and a competitive balance pick from Cleveland.
Seattle also, Tampa Bay also gave Seattle $5 million.
If I recall correctly, Edwin Encarnacion's buyout is $5 million, so it's like paying for his buyout, maybe.
Yeah, probably. From both standpoints of the Mariners and the Rays, I don't really like this trade for either of them because I think Edwin Encarnacion is a terrible replacement for Nelson Cruz. Maybe not terrible, but certainly, below the standard of Cruz. I'm one who's been vocal in thinking that I don't want us anywhere near Cruz because I think he's old and he's a ticking time bomb in terms of declining. But Edwin Encarnacion has already started declining. It's already been pretty visible in Cleveland. And he's not going to a hitter's sanctuary in Safeco Field. I realize Progressive Park is also known as being fairly pitcher friendly, but he's getting laterally moved, and it's not going to upgrade their DH spot at all. And I get they're getting the money back for him. If you're going to tank, that's kind of an asset that you didn't need. As for the Rays, I was never a huge Jake Bauers fan, but that was a head scratcher because he's young and he's got a lot of time to develop. He's going to be 23. He showed some promise early on in the season, and then after a really terrible 3 of 52 stretch and a 9 of 108 stretch, I believe, he kind of cleaned up and looked like a better batter. But he's gone. We got Yandy Diaz, and he looks like a promising talent. And it's gonna be very great to see what his defensive abilities are, and if we can tap into those huge arms. But I'm really kind of questionable about the fact that he's already 27 years old. We're not going to have a lot of time to mold this clay, and I think the Indians won this trade going away.
I disagree with the Mariners, but because really, from the Santana deal, which they shouldn't have done regardless, but they saved money and they got a draft pick for their troubles. And I don't think they really are going to care too much about DH productivity because while they're not giving up, they're definitely more towards the side of tanking than trying to compete, in my opinion.
I'd agree. All right, and Hendricks, what do you think about this newest trade that Dipoto did while in the hospital, nonetheless?
Well, for one, I think that the original return what we gave up for Segura was JP. So, and then Santana was in the deal. What I really like is that we got Santana we gave up Santana for a 1-year deal that we can easily buy out and an additional draft pick in the first 100 picks. Having an additional draft pick, in my opinion, it's very valuable because for a team that needs to rebuild the farm system even more than it does for the draft, that I like the fact that we're getting more potential to build up the system.
You wonder if they knew they were going to trade Santana to the Indians already through talks, and they just that's why they even acquired him, and that's why they may have paid a little bit more.
We'll probably never know. That might be the case because the Indians really didn't want Santana to leave, and now they have him back after a year. So
I will say, Jerry did say that they had to not outbid, but they already knew there was a very good market for Carlos Santana when they traded for him.
that's probably why they paid so much for him. Let's see. Yesterday, along with the Encarnacion trade, was the Rule 5 draft, which I thought was pretty good this year. It's been an improvement over years past. Let's see. We'll start with the Orioles pick, shortstop Richie Martin. I think this was a pretty great pick because worst comes to worst, he can be your utility guy who can play plus shortstop and potentially play really well at third and second. We just have to hope his bat gets going, and if his bat gets going, he might be able to be an everyday major league batter and shortstop. What do you guys think?
He was a Florida Gator at one point, right?
I believe so. Yes.
Wish him all the best. I was looking at him as a Rule 5 eligible player before the draft because I was reading an article that had listed him as someone who could go, and I liked him as a potential player to be picked because he still had some youth, but he had great production of where he was in the minor leagues. He was already pretty advanced there, and they just didn't protect him. So you pick a guy who's perfect for this scenario. He's kind of almost ready to be on the major league roster. There's just excess in the athletic system.
But yeah, I'm a big fan of Richie Martin and Drew Jackson. Now, future Orioles, probably.
Probably, yeah.
Yep. Future Orioles Hall of Famers right there, guys. Let's keep moving down the Rule 5 chain. The Royals picked Sam McWilliams from Tampa Bay. I thought that was pretty good. I think he can be a good bullpen asset, personally.
Yeah, we had him as a starter in Birmingham, and he kind of flopped. So I'm not losing too much sleep about losing him. There was another pitcher who was available, who was in Birmingham as well, who I talked about as my prospect last week, and I'm glad we were able to keep him. It was Brock Burke. I looked it up.
All right. Everyone else, what do y'all think?
I like it. I don't know too much about Sam McWilliams, but I agree with your assets. He could be a good bullpen asset.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't surprise both of the guys the Royals picked in the Rule 5 draft because they ended up trading for Chris Ellis, who the Rangers picked. Both of them strike me more as sinker slider kind of guys with average stuff, which is exactly what Brad Keller was last year. And they ended up getting rewarded very nicely for Brad Keller. So I think it was more of just both of them have kind of a similar profile to Keller. And so that's what they went for.
Give their pitching coach a mold clay, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm happy that we kept Brock Burke because I believe he was not protected. Sam McWilliams is 23 years old. He should have been ready for Double-A. He probably just wasn't. He needed to develop a little bit more. Maybe there's still plenty of talent there. And now that I said I'm not losing sleep over losing him, he's probably going to be a Hall of Famer. Just to jinx me.
Yeah, we seem to have that kind of luck here. Let's see. The White Sox picked Jordan Romero from Toronto, but then traded him to Texas. I think that's a pretty good pick as well.
I think so. He's definitely, because he gets murdered by left-handed pitching, but he's another sinker slider. He can throw, I think, 96, 97 with the sinker. So, I mean, it's going to be, I very much see him sticking out the entire year with them.
Yeah, that definitely seems like an immediate bullpen asset.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. The Marlins picked Riley Farrell from Houston, who I think has a ton of good upside. Who I think has a ton of upside in the bullpen. However, his control just rubs me the wrong way so much, man.
He's a guy that's either going to be the future closer, or he'll get returned a week into spring training. It really just depends on how that first week goes.
I will say that most of his ugly-looking statistics are in PCL, and that's the wild west of baseball in terms of power hitting, with the environments being pretty high altitude. Many of them almost as high altitude as Denver, Colorado. So that can give you some visions in how the PCL is. So, he has to navigate that altitude maybe as a fly ball pitcher. I don't know if he is a fly ball pitcher or not. I'm just saying that's a potential scenario. He looked pretty good in Double-A.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. I'm going to stick out the year with them as well because there's not really a reason for them not to keep him, generally.
Yeah, and they just need depth in their organization to begin with. Like they that's where they have some weaknesses is that pitcher.
Yeah. Let's see. The Tigers picked Reed Garrett from Texas, who again I think will probably be another potential good bullpen arm.
Yeah, I mean he's very similar to kind of now similar to Riley Farrell, where they're both big arm, 95 plus mile an hour fastball, good breaking pitch. So he's another guy I could very well see sticking the entire year with Detroit as well.
Connor Joe from the Dodgers. I heard some Dodger fans being pretty upset about losing Connor Joe. It just sounds like a more lumberjack name.
Yeah, it kind of does. I looked at it. He provides pretty good glove overall. The bat so far, I thought was pretty good all throughout. However, he has had a couple development issues until cut through his time in Pittsburgh and Atlanta's systems. But overall, and with the Dodgers, he seemed to do very well.
Yeah, he tore it up in their minor leagues in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
The Dodgers rebuilt his swing. And seeing as he's a multi-position guy and a guy who did catch in the last instructional spring training, there's a good chance that he also could be kept, especially because they don't have any utility players currently listed on their 40-man, I don't think, besides Blandino, who's hurt. So
I've heard some very, very light rumblings about the Reds trading Suarez. I don't think they will because that's just too valuable a player on too long a contract, on too team-friendly a contract. Mm-hmm. So I don't really think they move him over to third base where he played the most in the PCL. But the catcher comment that seemed pretty interesting. We'll see how that pans out. That's a good pickup, Blue.
Mm-hmm. Let's see, the Rangers picked Chris Ellis, who they traded to Kansas City. Again, from the Cardinals organization. Again, another big right-handed arm who potentially could do well in the bullpen in Kansas City. Let's see, Travis Bergen. I'm sorry if I'm botching these names. Was picked from the Toronto system by the Giants. I thought that was a pretty okay pick from to help bolster a Giants bullpen that has no depth. So
I will say I am a huge fan of that pick. He's averaged 12 Ks per 9 inning, I believe, over his career, as well as he had like a 1.25 ERA or something like that. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Big fan.
Yeah, I can't believe the Jays didn't protect him.
They chose to protect Jacob Waguspek, who had I believe a 6 ERA in Philly system and then a 6 ERA in Toronto system. I don't get it either.
That's weird. Yeah, I thought that was pretty weird that Toronto protected him, even though he's been kind of arse. Let's see.
Elvis Luciano is next.
I don't get that. He's 18 years old, and you selected him in the first 10 picks of the Rule 5 draft. He has to be in the major leagues. An 18-year-old in the major leagues. I don't get that.
That's pretty cool though to be 18 and be in the bigs though.
He's not even going to play. He's probably going to be stashed on that roster, and they're going to be playing with 24 active players pretty much.
He'll get his 50 big league innings because pitchers are easier because they can just give him 50 innings and he's actually worked. Unlike batters who get like 95 at bats, Victor Reyes, like that. So he'll get those, but yeah, he's definitely just getting stashed. They have no intention of playing him more than a couple times.
Yeah, probably in mop up duty too. Let's see. The Mets got Kyle Dowdy from the Indians. I thought that was an okay pick. I don't see the upside for Dowdy.
Yeah, I didn't
What
get
do you
that
guys
one.
think? Yeah. Brody's making them picks, man. Cut. Not because I love because I look at Kyle. I look at his numbers in double A in double A this year with a 6.52 ERA, a 1.2 home runs per nine, a 5.6 walks per nine, and an 8.7 strikeouts per nine. And you know what I automatically think? Let's print those playoff tickets for the Mets, baby. Print those playoff tickets. And that 1.655 whip, I think Brody's smoking some good stuff, man. Whatever he's smoking and sees in this guy, I want.
Yeah, give me some of that shit.
Seriously, send it my way.
What's your opinions on Drew Jackson? Because that's our next pick, and he was traded to the Orioles.
Drew Jackson, I think has a great bat, but defensively, I think he will be limited really to meh shortstop. I think second base wise, he could do really well.
I mean, you brought in Richie Martin. He already that was
did.
the first pick of the Rule 5 draft. That was a shortstop.
Yeah.
So he's a second baseman. What surprises me is that Keen Wong didn't get picked. You know, the brother of Colton Wong. And
Well,
you know,
yeah,
it would have. I think that would have been a better fit for the Orioles because he's already in AAA and he's a second baseman, a pure second baseman who's played some outfield as well. And he's got a more advanced bat being in AAA, putting up pretty similar statistics to what Drew Jackson did in AA. So, yeah, I'm just kind of surprised by this.
Yeah. I think. Well, I'm not really surprised because we need to rebuild our
infield.
Yeah, our infield depth because our infield depth basically doesn't exist. It's Jonathan Villar, some silly string, some duct tape, and probably a balloon with a little happy face drawn on it. So to see the Orioles rebuilding their infield depth makes me kind of happy. One guy I'm surprised who didn't get picked was Josh Van Meter, who has a pretty good swing, amazing ball and bat skills, very patient approach, and who has a utility ceiling type, but I think overall would have done well because he can play second base, left field, and just can generally play anywhere. And his bat plays really well too.
Yeah.
All right.
I think they took Jackson because of the ability to play shortstop. I mean, even if he's not terrific at it, he has had a lot of time there and has I believe a plus arm at least. So, you know, I like the pick. He has the lout. I think he was the highest outside pick that, aside Elvis Luciano, probably that was going to get taken.
Yeah. All right, so that concludes that segment. All right. So
Nick Green and Joe Ferguson, but no one cares.
yeah, basically that.
I can get both of them real quick. Nick Green, fastball, good curveball, gets hit too much, but could be something. Definitely reliever. Ferguson's a fourth outfielder with good on-base skills. There we go.
Yep. All right, so now comes the end of the show where we each pick a prospect from our respective systems and talk about them for a minute. I'll go last, and I'll let all of you guys go first. I'll let you guys all go ahead.
All right, I'll start. I picked left fielder Keegan McGovern, my 9th round draft pick from 2018. He's currently 22. No, currently 23, but he was drafted at 22. He broke out of college with a 319, 431, 644 slash line with 69 hits, 18 of which are home runs, and a 37 to 46 walk to strikeout ratio. In A ball, he hit 268, 351, 523 with a 390 weighted on base average in A ball. 15 home runs in 60 games with an excellent home run to fly ball ratio greater than at 23.1%, above average walk rate of 10.4%, and below average strikeout rate of 24.4%. He put up an ISO of .255, which is excellent, and is second ranked in the Midwest League, and only the 10th overall prospect, Alex Kirilloff, and ahead of guys like Nolan Jones and Royce Lewis. He has below average defense, but his arm fits in left field, so if he develops that, is most likely where he'll stay at. He put up a range factor per 9 of 1.78 in A ball. So yeah, he's very powerful. He may not play good defense, but hey, if he's that powerful, he has value in the organization.
All right, Blue.
I'm gonna go with another 2018 draft pick. I'm gonna go with our first rounder, Seth Beer. Big guy, definitely one of the better bats, college bats. Has really rugged but very nice swing that works. Definitely a pull hitter. The issue with him is he may not be good enough on defense to play first base or left field, which luckily for us leaves designated hitter. And he's gotten more athletic the longer he's been in college. So it's a very interesting pick, but he can really hit.
Sometimes the ones that can hit are the ones that work out the best. Bunny, yours?
All right. I'm gonna go with Nathaniel Lowe, who is kind of the forgotten man a little bit in the Rays system, but not by the Rays, by the general public, because MLB Pipeline rates him as the number 9 first baseman in all of baseball in terms of prospects. The problem is that the Rays also have the number 2 first baseman in all of baseball in terms of prospects, Brandon McKay. Sorry. So Nathaniel Lowe had kind of a magical season, rising from Charlotte to Durham, and that he hit the organizational leading 27 home runs. Now that we've traded Jake Bowers, he's going to have an exceeded importance because he did end up making it to Durham there late in the season. We'll see how having Mr. Yandy Diaz will for our first base situation, but expect to see Lowe get some time there. Also expect to see Brandon Lowe get some time there as well. We have all 3 of the Lowe's brothers, even though only 2 of them are brothers. That's what I like to call them.
So for my prospect, I'm gonna pick a guy who I thoroughly enjoyed this year out of the Manny Machado trade, and that would be Dean Kermer. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that name. Let's see. I believe he led all of minor league baseball in strikeouts this year, and was part of a side piece in the Manny Machado trade. But let's see. This year in high A ball for the Dodgers, 3.3 ERA in 16 games started, 79 innings allowed, 29 earned runs, 7 home runs, 26 walks, and had 114 strikeouts. Let's see. And in Double-A Bowie, he earned a promotion when he got traded to the Orioles in 8 starts and 45 innings. Only gave up 13 earned runs, 17 walks, and had 53 strikeouts. So another thing I'd like to highlight with Dean Kermer is the discrepancy between MLB Pipeline and other
rating
organizations. Yeah, and other rating publications, because let's see, for MLB Pipeline, he's 16th on the Orioles top prospect list. But for Orioles Hangout, who I would consider highly highly respectable source when it comes to Orioles minor league material, and they had him, I believe, as the third best prospect behind Yunciel Diaz and DL Hall. So, but overall, though, for 14th round pick, I really, really like this guy, and I think this guy could potentially be the guy who the ace, the right-handed ace that the Orioles have been looking for since Mike Mussina signed with the Yankees.
If you can develop him.
Oh yeah, but I think I believe he's probably going to be in Double-A Bowie or Triple-A Norfolk, which is a half an hour from where I live currently. So I'll probably be seeing him this year, which makes me pretty happy too. So yeah. All right, everyone. I'd like to thank you all for tuning in and listening. Another special thanks to our good buddy Zoom. You can find him on Twitter and Twitch TV at.
You can find me on Twitter. I think I'm _Zooms, and then on Twitch I am just Zooms.
Yep.
Thanks for the little shout out, guys.
No problem. Thank you for recording us.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. We'd like to thank you all out there on the internet for listening in. Thank you so very much, and have a great day until we see you next time.